this gentleman over here in the 10th Amendment Foundation t-shirt.
I'd like to ask Mr. Boucher, is he really scared of Nancy Pelosi?
Yeah.
Well, please don't ask questions of Mr. Boucher because he's not here and we're wasting time on it, but it's a good point. Yeah, Deanna?
Yes, I'd like to ask Mr. Griffith if, who he would vote for as Speaker.
Well, I think it's important first that I get elected to Congress so that I have that option and that choice. I don't know who all the candidates would be at this point, and I would have to review the candidates at that time. Obviously, if Eric Cantor were one of the candidates, I'd have to take a very serious look at Eric. Eric and I go a ways back. Eric was in the House of Delegates when I first got there in 1994. He and I worked on projects in the House of Delegates, and so I would, obviously, as a longtime colleague and somebody that I know, I would have to give him very serious consideration. But there may be other candidates who decide to run for Speaker, and I would have to take a look at each candidate. Should I be elected as your congressman? And I hope I will be. But that's a decision that I'll start looking at after this election.
All right. I want somebody here. This lady here, I believe, wants to ask a question.
I don't think so. Thank you, Mr. Griffith, for coming. You've actually inclined me more to vote for you. But I do have a question, and that is, why would you even consider education a federal issue, especially in light of this being the 10th Amendment Foundation?
And the question, of course, is a good one, but I would have to say that the United States, we do have to take a look at, what we're doing. If we had a state that was consistently failing to educate its students, we would have to take a look at that because that impacts the entire nation. Now, I believe that it's a state issue predominantly, but we would have to take a look at it if there was a state that was consistently not educating its young people, because that would become a drain on our country and our country's ability to compete with other countries.
Consistently for what period of time?
Well, and obviously I would have to map out that and take a look at it and study it very carefully at this point tonight. I don't have a plan that is, that detailed. But I do think we should take a look at that, and that's the one reason why I wouldn't say that we shouldn't have a national standard that we take a look at, because we do have a concern that if there is a state that is not educating its young people, then we would be affected nationally.
Okay, I said 3. I'm going to recognize one more, Mr. Carr there.
Thank you. It's good to see you again. Can you give us your position on the problem of illegal immigration in this country and any solutions that you may have to that?
Yeah. The question was, would I give my position on illegal immigration and any solutions? Look, number one, we have to build a fence. It has to be a real fence, not a virtual fence. We need to look at the technology that the Israelis have used, although it's a much shorter fence. We would have to take a look at the technology the Israelis have used along the border with the West Bank that divides them between the Palestinian state, between the fence and the West Bank of the Jordan. And so I think we need to do that. We need to make sure that we secure our border. We start on the southern border and we move then to see what we need to do along the northern border, because once we stop the bad guys from coming in the south, they will try to figure out ways to come across the Canadian border. That's a much longer border and even harder to police, but we need to start looking at that as well. We need to make sure that we protect our country, and right now we're not doing that. And so I feel very strongly that we need to build a fence.
Make a commitment not to vote for blanket amnesty for illegal immigration.
The question is, would I make a commitment not to vote for blanket amnesty for illegal immigrants in this country? And the answer is yes.
I said we would be close to 8:30. It is now just a little bit past 8:30. I have one more question down here, and it's an important one that hasn't been asked, but very quickly, please, ma'am.
I would like to ask one question that has not been, everything has been brought up as who he's going to vote vote for here and there. Nothing has been said.
Yeah, there's a mic right up here, ma'am.
Right there. That way everybody can hear you.
Nothing has been said about jobs, and that's what I'm wanting to know about. My question is, what about jobs or programs for people who have chronic medical problems or are disabled but can't get a job? What about all these on-the-job programs and things like that that the government has taken out? No one has said anything about all the places.
Okay.
Nothing said.
All right, that's your question.
Yes.
And yes, if he will answer.
Let me answer by talking about jobs generally. Now, you've asked a more specific question. I'll try to get to that as well. But I was hoping somebody would ask the question about jobs, because I do believe that jobs are extremely important. We have had a real issue here in the 9th District in regard to jobs. You know, Mr. Boucher has an ad up right now where he says there are 28,000 more jobs in the district now than there were when I was first elected. Well, there are 100,000 more people. So with 28,000 more jobs and 100,000 more people, that means we have a lot of folks who are not working. Now, some of those folks are obviously retired, but the bottom line is the data shows that if you look at the Virginia Employment Commission data, for each county and city that's in the 9th District, we've lost approximately 18,000 net jobs in the last 10 years. Let's talk about the last decade, not going back to 1982 when Mr. Boucher was first elected. Clearly, we have fewer jobs. Now, the question also went into jobs programs for people that are disabled or partially disabled. Obviously, if you're totally disabled, the definition of that is you can't work. So even some of those jobs would not work. But obviously, there are lots of programs out there that are private funded and some that are government funded, trying to get jobs, have various disabilities. We need to take a look at that. Obviously, if we can, one of the nice things about a jobs program that deals with folks who have some disability is if we can get them off the public dole by finding a job where they can support themselves, they feel better and we spend less money. So there is a value to that.
Thank you very much. There's one other question that I'm going to take personal privilege to ask because I can't be in the audience tonight, but I have been here since 1968. And I've been involved in every single, somebody claimed that, well, this wasn't fair because I've been involved in politics, and I have been. But that doesn't mean that I can't be totally fair and totally honest in the thing, and that's what I've tried to be tonight. But in terms of being totally fair and being honest and having the truth come out, I have seen on several occasions that when a certain party felt that it was under any pressure whatsoever, it would send out a poison pin letter, in effect, to all of the voters about 3 days before the election, in which they would say that their opponent was going to do away with Social Security, or their opponent was going to cut Social Security, or their opponent was going to do something about Social Security, and so that there's no question about it in the future and nothing 2 or 3 days before the election, so that whatever is said can be answered. Would you please tell the audience and the people who are here what your position on preserving Social Security is?
There's no question that we're going to preserve Social Security. The government has made a deal, right or wrong, some people may disagree, but we've made a deal with the people of the United States of America, and we cannot back out on that deal.
Okay. All right. Now, we have to cut it off somewhere, and I know that there are a lot of people who have questions, and I'm sure that Mr. Griffith will be available either now or by phone, or his staff or somebody will be glad to answer the questions. I think that's the important thing, is that we have somebody we can ask the questions for. I did promise Kathy Turner, who is one of the leaders of the Tea Party Coalition for the 9th District, and that includes Tea Party groups from Chilhowie and from Abingdon, Bristol, from Big Stone Gap and Wise, and from Wytheville, and from other places, that she had an announcement to make, and I will give her the opportunity to make that announcement.
Okay. Good.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm Kathy Turner.
Turn it on.
Better?
Yeah.
I'm Kathy Turner, and I'm one of the organizers in Abingdon, Bristol, for the Southwest Virginia Tea Party Patriots. And I am disappointed that Mr. Heaton and Mr. Boucher aren't here tonight, because it's kind of a big night for us, because we now have tea parties in virtually every part of this huge district. And we have representatives from those tea parties here tonight. There's something that I want to clear up that is really troubling me. There was the newspaper article today in the Bristol Herald-Courier, and a couple days ago, the reporter called, Deborah McCown called, and asked, did I know that Jeremiah Heaton was not going to show up tonight? And that really surprised me, because I hadn't heard that from Rich Macbeth, who is organizing the event. So just like Rich told you all, we had no knowledge of this, and still up until today, or not even today, did we get any word that there was a formal cancellation. So when I looked at that newspaper article and some of that, this was the online story that I saw. There were just, you can respond and you can blog, and some of the things that were being said, I really take issue with, and that is that that the Tea Party or the 10th Amendment Foundation is just another arm of the Republican Party. That simply is not true. And I will go further and say that the Tea Party doesn't want to be in any way considered a junior partner to the Republican Party. And I will go further and say what we'd really like is a hostile takeover of the Republican Party. Because our belief in fiscal conservatism, constitutional responsibility, and free markets, that pretty much sums it up. So I really had to take issue with the comments that were being made that would suggest that we are flunkies for either the Republicans or the 10th Amendment Foundation. And I have something to share with you that will prove that we are not. Back last year, the Tea Party hadn't started yet, and I got together with some folks when we heard that there was an independent candidate running. And we were excited about that. And I even we decided to meet with Jeremiah Heaton. This was after he had